Today we have Latasha Watts. She's the Executive Director of the Purple Project. We have our panel presenters, Carlotta Taylor, Executive Director of Somebody Step In, life coach, leadership trainer, and author. We also have Alexis Smith, Executive Director of Talk It Out and former foster youth. We have Tara Yasmin, Emmy-nominated poet, author, and entrepreneur. And we also have Mary Baxter, Philadelphia artist, speaker, and activist. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Tasha, and we can get started with our panel. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, panelists, for joining us. You guys are amazing, and we are really looking forward to learning about your lives and your everything that you've experienced when you've aged out. And this is called aging up. And the reason why we call it aging up is because we want to talk about, yes, what happens when you age out of foster care, but also what advice you can give. Also, what is it to help you age up, to level up when you age out of foster care. So we thank you, panelists, for coming. I'm going to dig in right away. And I'm going to start with a question, and I want each one of you to go down briefly, tell us a little bit about your lives, how you entered into foster care, and if you feel comfortable, it's all about being comfortable. Tell us a little bit about how you came into care, and as you aged out, what you experienced. And then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna ask you guys some more questions around that experience, okay? All right, so I'm gonna start with Carlotta Taylor. Welcome, Carlotta.
All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much. I'm grateful for this opportunity.
What brought you into care?
Can you hear me? Okay, yes. So my story, my parents were actually young when they first got married and when they had me. And I'm talking about 19, 20 years old. And unfortunately, they were going through a rough patch. So I was severely abused by my father. And when I say severely abused, I'm talking about like hit with boards, beat, kicked, about my body stomped, starved, all kind of things, to the point where I almost attempted to commit suicide by the age I was 12. And so I was brought into foster care due to school counselors by the age of 5. And at that start point, it became a cycle. So I would go into foster care, then go to another shelter, wait in another home, and that resulted in me being transferred from home to home and back to the primary residence about 26 times.
Wow, that's a lot of movement. And what age did you age out of foster care?
I came out of foster care around the age of 13 due to my mother finally divorcing my father. But the effects of what I had already been through kind of stuck with me for several years throughout life.
Okay, and we'll come back to when you actually left care. I want to turn it over to I'd like to turn it over to Tara. Welcome, Tara. Thank you so much. Can you tell us a little bit about your story, very briefly, of how you came into care and what age you aged out of foster care?
So good morning to everyone, and thank you for having me. So my story is a little different. I was adopted, and I'm doing air quotes because the story gets really interesting. So I look forward to sharing what that means exactly. So I did not grow up in my biological family. I went to live with another family straight from the hospital. And while I never called it aging out when it happened, my adoptive mother, she sent me out on my own when I was 18.
Okay, so that's it. And I like to go back and say this is very important because a lot of our teens experience this after being adopted. And I'm doing your air quotes because I know your story and I know you can't really dig deep into it. But really, they're experiencing the same thing as youth aging out. So I thought it was very important for you to be on a panel because that's that population that gets missed. And I am also going to pose that question to Mary. Mary, welcome so much. You have an amazing story as well. Can you please tell us a little bit about how you came into care and a little bit about the age that you've aged out?
Right. Well, first and foremost, thanks so much for inviting me and the other panelists to share our lived experience with the foster care system. But my journey started at age 11. That was like my first initial contact with the system, largely due to my mother having schizophrenia and just not being able to take care of me, but also, because I am a descendant of slavery in communities that have historically been denied resources that, create the right ecosystem for you to thrive and excel. And at age 11, after being in like a near-death experience, car accident, I basically advocated for myself to be placed in the system because I knew that my mother just didn't have the capacity to nurture and raise me consistently. The type of schizophrenia she had, she would be able to function for like 8 months at a time, 8 to 9 months, and then her body would become immune to the medication and she would have an episode and have to be hospitalized and they have to find the right combination again to stabilize her. So it was like at a very young age, I kind of, tried to take some responsibility for where my life would end up. And I stayed in the system until age 17 when I graduated high school and went away to college where essentially I had no mentorship or support. And it was a tough time. I was forced to emancipate myself at age 17 when I entered college so that I could get the maximum in student aid, but I still was forced to take out student loans. So I can speak to, like what it's like as a minor to be forced to like be an adult and try to navigate life after care.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing a piece of your story. And guys, just remember, you're going to be able to follow them and keep up with them, and they're excellent at responding. And I'm going to turn this over to Alexis. Alexis, welcome. Alexis has an amazing story as well. Alexis, briefly tell us a little bit about how you came into care and what age did you age out of foster care? And then I want to get to the nitty gritty of the questions because we have this brief moment of time. So take it over, Alexis.
She's muted.
You're muted. That's okay.
Sorry. Good morning. How are everybody? I aged at the age of 3. My mother suffers from bipolar schizophrenic. So we'd be good until we were really bad. And at the age of 5, it got really bad where she would just stop coming home and we would have to fend for ourselves. So we end up re-entering care at the age of like 6. And I never left again until I was 19. I always tell people like growing up in foster care was probably pretty easy for me. It wasn't really hard. I wasn't any bad. So I was in a lot of homes. I was in 21 homes. But I think aftercare is where it got hard because foster care didn't prepare me for being an adult. So I aged out at 19. I attended college shortly, but I didn't know what anxiety was. So I came home and it took a long time, but I finished my degree. And I started a nonprofit to help kids who, when they age out of care, so they're not struggling. So they got the guidance and support that they need forever.
Thank you so much. So I'm gonna go back to you and I'm gonna go back around. So Alexis, tell us a little bit about your experience after you aged out very briefly, and what advice would you give to prevent some of the negative outcomes that you had, and tell us some of the good things that occurred as well. What advice would you give the youth right now?
Is to listen to people that are older than you. I had a lot of support people in my life and I just didn't listen to them. I thought I knew it all. And I didn't think everybody had my best interest at heart. I think like I only had my best interest at the time. So it would just be to listen to the older people that came out of the system before you and to save every dollar, to save if you can, to save a lot of money. I touched a lot of money after care and I didn't have the right mindset. So it put me being homeless and struggling and trying to figure it out. And having all that together now, having money saved up and my bills paid and insurance and things that I need as an adult, it makes me have less anxiety. So it would be just to listen. And I know that's a hard thing to hear when you growing up and you think you got to figure it out, but I go back to every adult person that told me something good and gave me good advice when I'm doing things in life now.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you give us one good experience and one bad experience that you've had?
I feel like homeless.
That you don't,
I'm sorry?
that you mind sharing.
Okay. Well, I'm an open book. But I feel like being homeless is the worst experience. It's so hard trying to better yourself and deal with your mental health and become the best version of yourself when you don't even have a place to do that at. So I feel like the worst thing that ever happened to me, like I will fight through teeth and nail to keep my apartment because I would hate to be homeless again. I think having a place to stay, you can start anything else, you know, you can start the peace and the finding your mental health. And I think the best thing is it made me stronger. I'm more equipped to deal with things. I be calm and I look at situations different now because I know I got things to lose, you know. And I understand that this is my opinion. Foster kids can't mess up. Like we don't have a fall up plan. We can't go stay with our parents when things ain't right and we ain't got money. You know, we gotta push through it, but it also makes us stronger in the end.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. That's some good advice from Alexis. And Alexis Talking Out is all about mental health and helping you deal with your mental health. Thank you, Alexis, so much. I'm going to turn that same question back over to Mary. Mary, thank you again for joining us. What, after you came out of care, what was your biggest struggle? And what advice would you give? And what advice would you give based on that struggle and based on just aging out in general? Give us some advice for them.
Okay. I mean, for me, one of the biggest struggles was just, you know, not having a community of care and support to help navigate college. You know, I was the first one in my family to, you know, reach that level. So it wasn't like I could go to any of them. And, you know, the fact that the system had deemed me like an adult, it was just pretty much on myself to like be open and take risks. And I mean, you know, as someone that was I never was in like foster care per se as like homes. I was always like in these like institutional settings with hundreds of other like children. So there was a lot of like difficulty in trying to build trust. So when I began to like, you know, create things for myself, like, you know, positive affirmations, self-talk, that gave me the courage to, you know one, that I do deserve support and love. And I think that shift was very powerful for me and helped to like magnetize the resources, whether it was people, places, or things that I needed to be successful. So yeah, just really like things that we can do for ourselves that don't necessarily lean on others, but create a pathway to connect with others. So that internal dialogue became real critical for me. So the utilization of positive affirmations really empowered my sense of identity and ability to be resilient and push through.
That is some great advice. I mean, I'm hearing all across the board, you know, just really support. But what I'm hearing from you, Mary, is more so also, you know, if there's nobody there, you have you. You're going to have to advocate for yourself and be able to navigate through those systems. And I think that is important. That is an important, very important advice to give. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm going to now turn it over to Tira and ask that same question. What advice would you give to youth, and what was your experience? I know you have like coming from the adoption side of it, but what would you say was your biggest challenge, and what advice would you give?
So I think that I can agree with Alexis. I had a support system, but I just believe that my mother didn't prepare me to be self-sufficient before she gave me 90 days to move out of her home. Um, so yeah, I would have to say stability was the struggle. But one of the things that I have to give her credit for is that she secretly entered my name into a Section 8 lottery. And so I ended up in the Section 8 program, but in my early 20s, I refused to go to one of my appointments because I felt like being a part of that system wasn't really teaching me how to be a responsible adult. So I let it go so that I would have to really learn the responsibility of taking care of myself and my household. I believe the greatest experience that I had, I would say being a mother. I don't encourage teen pregnancy, but I had a child when I was 16, and I will always say that my daughter saved my life. I would not be the woman that I am. I would not have healed the way that I have healed if she had not come into my life when she came into my life.
Great. Yeah, that's good. That's good advice. And I'm hearing that across the board, that a lot of you all are saying, like, you didn't want to be a part of another system, but you really wished you would have, so you can kind of keep up with, I get it, because when I left care, it's like, I don't want to be with nothing. I don't want any support. So what I'm hearing collectively is you guys are saying, no, get that support and try to make it, as best as you can.
Yes.
And Tara, I'm hearing from you, you're saying also just really learning. You have to learn, because the bottom line is that we're going to be on our own. So you have to get out there and you have to educate. So I'm hearing this across the board. So thank you, Tara, so much for giving that insight. Oh, you got one more. Go ahead.
So my resources, that would be my advice. My advice is to utilize your resources. I don't know if you guys know who Gary Vee is, but if you don't, Google Gary Vee. But Gary Vee has this saying, and he says, Google is your mother. There are so many resources. There's so many resources out there and so many programs that you can take advantage of to get what you need. Please set your pride aside and be humble in asking for the help that you need. Yeah, that would be my advice, is to utilize your resources. Google when you don't know.
That's true. That's true. Thank you, Tara, so much. Thank you so much for that advice. I'm going to pass it over to Carlotta. Carlotta, thank you so much for joining us. I would like to know, what advice would you give? What was your experience? Because I know you went through struggles on your own. Even though you were younger, those struggles were still very much real, as if you were exactly 18 years of age. So tell us what advice you would give right now to the youth as they're aging out. What would you suggest? What advice would you give, basically?
Right, absolutely. First, I would say that by the age of 17, I was a senior in high school, and by mid-year, I was actually homeless, and I had to live with a friend because, like I said, my mom had divorced my father by the age of 13. So my struggle with growing up in and out of foster care, being fed house slop by a foster parent, it was just gruesome. My struggle was, I didn't know who I was. Like, I was afraid. I didn't believe in myself. My self-confidence was shot. So I was never asked the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? That question was never asked of me. So I had no idea. And I attempted several jobs. I'm talking about, I would attempt anything, whether it was network marketing, working in the store, getting hired. I would work for like 3 days and I would quit by 3 weeks. I used to be a professional quitter. If there was an award that could be given for a person who could quit everything they touched, that was for me, okay? And it wasn't until the age of 23. See, I joined college. I went into college and applied, and it was surprised when I got accepted at Tougaloo College. I attended one semester, and by the end of that semester, I didn't have a home to go to for the summer break. So I joined the military. And it wasn't until the age of 23 that I actually came into myself and found what I would consider my first career choice. My advice to the foster youth today, when it comes to aging out and aging up, as Latasha said, is to one of the main things that I'm so inspired to be here today to speak to you all with these wonderful ladies who are sharing their story. I did not have anyone as an image that I could say, you know what, they went through foster care, they experienced ups and downs, they experienced being a victim, but now they're survivors. I think that is one of the best things you can do, is be inspired and identify with one of the ladies on the panel all across the board, because that's what helped me. When I became 23 and I could look at a person who overcame some of the things, that gave me strength to keep going, to keep moving. So that would be my advice, to really dig in and take this conference seriously and learn from everybody. It doesn't matter if they say one word, that one sentence, that one experience can get you through so many years down the line.
Yeah. Thank you. That is some good advice. You guys got some really good I call it golden nuggets for everybody to really take. Now I'm going to turn it over. I think Tira, you wanted to add something to that. And then I think Candace, are we good to take some questions from the audience? Does the audience have questions? And I'm going to let Tira, while Candace lets me know, I'm going to let Tira take, go ahead, Tira.
So I want to also say, never estimate your own power. I'll be really transparent here. Because I was a teen mother, I was a high school dropout, and I passed a GED test when I was 17 years old, the first time I took it with the 8th grade education. And I know that was by the grace of God, but also the intelligence that I had. I think sometimes when we go through experiences where people are not pouring into us, we think that we don't have the ability to accomplish things that other people can accomplish when they've had that support system that has poured into them. So you have to trust your own abilities. And you have to understand that you have power, and you need to learn how to utilize that power.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Tara. That is so true. I mean, aging out is difficult and it's hard and it's rough. So it's one of those things that you're not going to be able to avoid. At some point, you're not going to be able to avoid it, and you will be on your own. Does any of you ladies want to leave any messages? I mean, for any more advice you would like to give, or anything you would like to add? If not, we can begin. Alexis?
I just want to say, like she said, take advantage of your resources while you can. The last year in foster care, I feel like you should just be preparing yourself mentally and just financially, because it's not like you're going to be on your own. I feel like every foster kid creates a bond with at least one person, I came across a client I had, and I was really sad because I felt like I feel like everybody, even the worst of the worst, has one person fighting for them, and they didn't have anybody fighting for them. So that's another reason I created Talk It Out, is because no matter how old you get, you forever need your parents. We always gonna need guidance in some situation. So take heed to any guidance somebody's trying to give you. Time is money, and if somebody wants to give you their time for free and their guidance, take it.
That's true. That's some good advice.
And Tasha, we're still working on questions, but I am seeing a lot of great comments where people are really just kind of applauding the speakers, especially when it comes to advocating for ourselves and doing that internal work, even if we don't have people supporting us, knowing that we can do that for ourselves. So yeah, there's a lot of good information here, but people who are really just feeling the comments that are the feedback that they're hearing today.
Yeah, thank you, Candace. And if you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments. drop it in the chat box, and Candace will let us know, and you guys will answer. And you can ask any of the ladies on the panel, including me, if you have questions. I will say this. When I aged out, the one thing that I did not do is make that connection back to the one, like you said, to the one person that was really fighting for you. I think Alexis and you guys were saying that. That's the most important thing. If you can find someone, great, great. It would be helpful. I mean, we do this thing called family search and engagement, where we try to find that one person. And I always look back at, like, I'm just using this as an example, LeBron James, where he ended up being with his coach, So there are, and I know he didn't grow up in foster care, but I'm giving it as an example. That was the one person in his life that did want to help, to create his life, to help him, shape him, and mold him. So if you find that one person, that, I think that would be, that's a great way to get started as well.
There is a question on here from Brittany.
Yeah.
Yes. What are the first 3 things you should do once you age out of foster care system?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
3 things you should do once you age out of the foster care system.
Okay, which one of you guys want to take that?
Oh, I'll take it.
Okay.
I feel like that the first 3 things you should do is, like I said, make sure that you have a stable mental health plan if you feel like that you're dealing with mental health, and have stable finances. I feel like that you shouldn't leave foster care without a couple $100 in your pocket, just so you have that cushion and you're not out here. And like I said, like Latasha said, and I said before, making sure that you have a solid person that has your back, even if it's just one solid person that's having your back, that I feel like that's the ground for having you to be not stagnant or statistic. It's leading you to be everything you can be.
When you say stable finances, you really mean also sometimes when you age out of care, make sure you have a job, employment.
Sure. Yes, for sure.
Yes, make sure you have employment. And if there's programs out there that will help you with your finances, because I know there's some here, where we are, and take advantage of anything, financial planning. If you guys, independent living, emancipation classes, whatever they call it in your area, take advantage of it all, every single drop of it. I remember when I was in independent living, I just went for the bus tickets, and bus tickets and free food. I didn't really get anything out of it, so because I wasn't willing to learn. so definitely take advantage of everything. So I agree. Those are 3 great things. Candace, do we have any more questions?
We do. Someone asked about just how do you motivate yourself? And we did hear a lot, particularly from Mary, when she was talking about the internal work she was doing, the positive affirmations. So maybe we could take some time to talk about how do you get to that point? Because we're hearing a lot about, encouraging yourself, but just with everything that we've been through, how do we continue to do that or even get to that point?
For me, keeping a daily journal is important. It gives you a picture of where you've been, where you're at, and where you hope to go. So journaling was very instrumental in helping me create a daily practice of affirmations and positive self-talk. Another thing, meditation, like just breathing, that doesn't cost anything. A lot of us that come from these communities, we've experienced immense amounts of trauma. So creating like a daily practice where, you can go back to zero, drinking a lot of water. And if you can, if you have public assistance, trying to find, a culturally competent therapist to kind of help you navigate your healing journey was something also that I utilize.
Thank you.
Oh,
so
and my
much.
art, and arts. I'm sorry. I did put in the chat that I am willing to connect with foster care youth if they are artistically inclined and want to work through some things through their art to amplify their lived experience. Also, how to apply for grants, how to get your work funded. I'm able to assist with all that because that also had a huge impact and me processing trauma and, being able to heal.
Excellent.
Thank you. I'm smiling because I'm looking and you have a lot in common with Tira, actually.
Oh, really? Cool.
I think you guys have a lot in common. I think Tira, you put your life into your work as well. I mean, she's an artist, she's a poet, Emmy nominated. I mean, so you guys have a lot in common in terms of being art for sure. I'm hearing it and I know it because I'm from both of you. And Carlotta, you had something you wanted to add as well?
Yes, when it comes to being self-motivated as a motivational coach and a life coach, I'm just going to give you all a free tip, something that really changes the perspective of how you view life at the given time. And one of those things is this, is simply write down 5 things you are grateful for that happened on today right before bed. So what that means is before you go to bed tonight, get you a journal. Someone already mentioned journal, right? Get you a separate journal and it's just gonna be your gratitude journal, okay? You're gonna write down 5 things you were grateful for that happened to you on that day. Do that every single day for 30 days to 90 days. When I tell you that is gonna change your mindset, you're just gonna be in a state of gratitude and it's gonna automatically help you look for the positive things in life. Being self-inspired, that's one way that I do it. Also, I want to say this, as you go out and find your jobs, now you get another nugget early in life. One thing you do not want to have is resentment down the line, because a lot of people live their life doing things they're not passionate about, they're not inspired about. And I'm talking about when you get on up in age. You don't want to look back over life and be like, man, I wish I would have went for it. I wish I would have did it. So whatever you're passionate about right now, go ahead and start digging into that, whether it's journaling about it, planning for it, getting ideas, using Google to figure out how can I get to the next step. Eventually you will get there, but start today. And that's my addition to that.
Thank you so much, Carlotta. And Tira, you wanted to add something as well?
Sure. So I'm an avid reader. So I actually read books that I think are helpful to my process of growth, that can motivate me, as well as teach me things that I would like to learn in terms of how to love myself more, or how to master my emotions, or how to build healthy relationships with other people. Because that is important coming out of situations of trauma. If you do not know how to build healthy relationships and properly connect with people, then it will limit your success. So that is what I would like to add to this part of the conversation.
Nice.
This is an amazing panel. You guys are awesome. I mean, you guys, I want you guys to follow them. They're on Instagram, they're on Facebook. I know some of you got Snapchats. I don't know if they're private, but I know you guys are on everything pretty much. I know some of you are and very accessible. So you guys, please follow them. You can ask them questions. Definitely. Candace, do we still have time for a few
We
more?
do still have some time. And then we've got a few comments here. We have one person who talked about college and it being really lonely and just really appreciating being encouraged today and wanting to really kind of be that for other people as well. And just really thanking the panelists for sharing their stories today. We also have someone who's provided a resource database. You can go to the Aging Out Institute's website, and I think they even have the link in here too. Just some additional information since we were talking about resources. We have quite a few people who are saying that they really do love the arts and they do find that to be something that helps and is supportive for them as well. Let's see what else we have in terms of, but right now I'm just seeing a lot of kudos. And a lot of people just saying that they are really feeling what's being said today. Maybe we can, let's see.
I wanted to address the person that is in college.
Good, thank you.
I know how that is because when I was in college and how lonely it is. I do want to tell you that the Purple Project does have a resource. It's called our One Voice program. So if you get in contact with me through Instagram, or I'll put my information in the chat. you can connect with our college programs. And that's something that we do. We make sure that you have care packages and things of that nature. So definitely get in contact with me. We have you. You shouldn't be alone in college. And I'm pretty sure some of the other, Felix Station and Music and Unity, I'm pretty sure we can put our heads together and assist in some way. So definitely get in contact with us, because that's one of the things that we do provide.
Yes, for sure. Nobody wants to feel alone in college.
No, not at all.
It's supposed to be the best time of life.
We do have a question as well.
Yes.
What kind of advice would you all give for someone who is 15 and currently pregnant in the system?
I'm gonna give that to Tira. Is that okay, Tira?
So I was definitely not prepared for this question, but I was a 16-year-old mother, and you have to make sure that your guardian is getting you the care that you need, so that you can have a healthy pregnancy. If you are in therapy, I would encourage you to dig really, really deep into your trauma. I am trying to say this in a way that you can understand, because I am 41 at this point, and so I want you to really get it. When we do not heal the things that have caused us pain, we put that off, we project that onto our children, and then we raise our children in painful or traumatic environments. And we do not do it on purpose. We do that because sometimes the trauma is just what we know. And so I need you to understand that your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health, everything about you, like that child, is dependent upon those things. And I pray that you are in an environment where you and your baby will be able to be stable and healthy together. You are going to have to grow up a lot faster than you planned. The way that you wish that someone would advocate for you, you are going to have to become an advocate for yourself and for another human being. If there's someone in this conference that can connect the two of us directly together, I would love to be a mentor outside of this conference.
And I'll just
Thank you, Tira. Thank you.
I just wanted to add to that. I'm not a parent, but I understand. I've voiced to all my friends. I'm like the mental health friend. I'm pushing it. I'm the mental health pusher, because I believe in generational trauma, and I believe that happens. Like she said, we don't intentionally do that. If we have wounds that are not healed, we're gonna raise somebody with wounds that we don't know how to deal with healthy relationships if we've never been in that, or healthy boundaries or healthy things. So we're gonna raise what we know. So like as she said, please, when you're pregnant, your mind is more susceptible to emotional. Take very good care of your mental health, because that's what you're going to pass on to your child while you're carrying it and after they're here. So just take real strides on making sure that you create a healthy space for you and your child, so that you bring a healthy child into the world, mentally and physically.
Don't smoke, and adapt to proper nutrition. Do not do things that will destroy your body. And I understand that sometimes we may get into these things because we are trying to cope, but do the best that you can to really, really, really take care of you.
Thank you. And then Tasha, if it's okay to switch gears, we do have another question. This one deals more so with forgiveness and dealing with the hurt. So we talked a lot about trauma and the things that we go through foster care. But one of the things, as we're talking about dealing with that situation and getting ourselves to an emotionally healthy place, is also our relationships with other people, particularly those who have hurt us. And, wanting to hear from the panelists, how have you all dealt with that?
I'm going to pass that one to Carlotta first, and then we can kind of go around. So Carlotta, take that one away.
All right. Man, whoever asked that question, that is an amazing, good question for us to expound on. I am the author of No More Flinching, 5 Steps to Overcoming Adversity. The 4th step in those 5 steps is forgiveness. And one thing I can tell you, you have to forgive in your own way, That's most important. And you may attempt to forgive, but guess what? You might have to go there over and over and over and over again. You may heal, but guess what? Something might happen and it kind of like reopens that scar, reopens that wound. You thought you forgave him, but when you saw him, you feel your knots in your stomach. Or when you think about what happened, you still cry, you still hurt, you're still feeling the anxiety from what you went through. It's a process, okay? And my book is available on Audible, so you don't even have to, order the hard copy. But anybody who orders through me, as a matter of fact, if you reach out to me, all foster youth, what I do for foster youth, I've never charged a foster youth for my book, okay? So if anyone could connect us to anybody who would like my book, it's on me. My heart is for the foster youth and aging up, but forgiveness is a process, and you cannot adapt to no one else's. You might have to go in the backyard, because I've done it before, and just scream to the top of my lungs, cry. You really want to get all of those emotions out, because holding them in is causing stress in your body, and it's going to cause another issues down the line. So I definitely pass it on to someone, but forgiveness is very key, and it's really for you more so than the other person.
Yes, absolutely, definitely, and for sure. Does anybody else want to add anything that's on the panel about forgiveness?
Yeah, like she said, harboring in like even trauma, it starts to mess with your physical health. You will start to feel sick physically, not taking care of yourself. Like she said, forgiveness is for you, and it takes a long time to work through that process. But nothing is overnight. And like I tell all my friends, I mean, you might want to walk into a therapist's office and be healed when you walk out that same day, but it could take a couple years to work through whatever you need to work through, as long as you work through it. You put a Band-Aid over a bullet wound, when you take the Band-Aid off, it's still gonna be there. The bullet wound will still be there. So you gotta treat everything in life like you would treat a bullet wound, with proper care and nutrition and taking care of yourself.
Absolutely. And I know Tierra wants to go. I want to add something to that I wish somebody would have told me.
Mm-hmm.
When you walk into a therapist's office and you start your sessions and you come back and you're not connected to that therapist, you're not feeling that therapist, you don't think that therapist is the best therapist for you, get another therapist.
For sure.
It's not a formula that one therapist can fit all. So definitely, if you're not, get reconnected. There's no rule that says you have to stay with one therapist, especially if you're not connected or don't like that therapist. So that's my advice. I'm gonna turn it over to Tierra.
So I would say one of the things that helped me start the process of forgiveness was having a spiritual connection to God. And I know that some people may worship differently, and that's okay. But being spiritually grounded and having a level of self-awareness. Like, you want to connect to God, you want to connect to your therapist, but you really have to learn how to connect with yourself. And when you do that, you will find a deeper sense of purpose. And so it was in learning who I was and what my purpose was that forgiveness became easier for me. And in my adult life, I would suggest, I know that for some of you, this may be painful in the aging up process, but one of the things that was important to me was healthy conflict resolution and actually confronting my parents for that trauma and for that pain. But to be transparent, some of that pain came from a parent that died when I was 10 years old. And so it was very recently, for the first time, just kind of sitting in a spiritual space, I was able to hear my father's voice, and I was able to hear him tell me that he was sorry. Because I know that that can be a difficult thing. So sometimes you may not get the "I'm sorry" from the person that actually caused the trauma, but you still need to be able to find a way to forgive so that you can live a full life, because you deserve to live a full life. You deserve that.
And yeah, definitely. You definitely, absolutely. And one of the things that I did, because I couldn't confront directly, and I like that, Tara, how you say you just went by yourself, and did it. What I did also was I wrote a letter. I just wrote a whole letter of how I was feeling, everything, got it all out and wrote a letter. Now I don't know if this is possible for anybody here, but I actually had an address to where they were and I mailed it. I don't care if they opened it. In my mind, they got it, they read it, and I'm good. You know exactly how I feel. And if you can't mail it, you write it to yourself, leave it, put it in a safe place, whatever you want to do, rip it up after you're done, but just definitely get it out for sure. Did anybody else want to add anything?
It was a kid that said that she's about to age out in 17 and she's going to college and she's really scared. And I understand that. I went away for college somewhere. I went to Ohio University and I only did a semester and came back because of anxiety. As we said before, just create an amazing support system. And I don't know none of these ladies personally, but I can. I was just telling Natasha, foster kids got this thing where they can tell who being genuine and who being fake, just like by a conversation. And I could tell all your hearts is genuine. So every kid on here who feels like they don't have anybody and they about to start these new chapters in their lives and they scared and they feel like they needed support, I can speak for me and I feel like I can speak for everybody on here that we said we'll be a support for you in any way that we can. I don't know where everyone's located, but I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, and I'm via phone, via Instagram, Twitter, message, and I try to be here as much as I can because I understand not having anybody. Ask Natasha, I don't want to give up on nobody. I want to help everybody.
Right. And all of us are available. I mean, all of us. The person, the young lady who also mentioned about college, again, reach out. We have a program to help. I mean, all of us collectively can help you. So definitely. Does anybody want to add anything else? Candace, we have any more questions?
We do have a couple more. We've got about 5 minutes before we close. There is a question too. This one really has to do with dealing with a case manager who may be overwhelmed, has a really huge caseload, and you try to go through the proper channels to get resolution. Let's say you're in a foster home where the family is really not taking care of you the way that they should. And, kind of how do you work through that if you have a case manager that doesn't seem to have enough time or may not care as much? How do you deal with that when you're in a serious situation where it's not good for you?
If nobody wants to take, I can.
Oh, no, that's a hard one. Yeah.
I don't know. I had my last caseworker. I remember my first county worker. I never met her a day in my life, but my last caseworker, God sent her there exactly for me. So, like they said, it, you can only be the best advocate for yourself. And I know that sucks sometimes because I have friends that was in foster care and they were getting abused, and I'm like, tell your worker, and they'd be like, we do. She don't believe us. So, if that advocate is not working, advocate at your school, advocate to anybody that you can, so you feel like you're in a safe environment and somebody's taking you seriously. Because caseworkers do get overwhelmed, and they do have a lot of people they looking out for. But sometimes you gotta scream and make a statement because your life is that important. The way you growing up is that important that you should push your way through. Like, yo, I'm something's not right. I'm not being taken care of. I'm not getting clothes. They not feeding me, or whatever the case may be, because it's your life. And it sucks sometimes that we have to be the biggest advocates for ourselves as children when we should be doing children things. But this is your life, and nobody gonna fight harder for you than you.
True, that's true. I'm gonna probably get dinged for this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway. If you have your case manager's email address or you have her supervisor's email address, email them what the issue is, CC them. If you don't know how to do it, well, one of us will show you how or tell you how. And it's in writing. It's now in writing. You now have can't get the word out today. Guys, help me. Anybody on the back?
The documentation for it. That's right. You're telling the truth.
Paper trail.
You now have documentation of that. You've mentioned this to people, and if your case manager is overloaded, you can say, hey, I know you're overloaded, but I need blah blah blah, whatever it is. Make sure that there's a supervisor or get in contact with that supervisor as well, so that way 2 people know like what's going on. And I'm big, and Alexis can really attest to this. I'm really big on what they call chain of command, which means the case manager is your case manager. She has a supervisor. That supervisor has a boss. When I was in care, all of them knew my name.
No, that's
so,
right.
So definitely that is something that you can utilize as being as advocating for yourself, for sure.
Absolutely.
So I know I'm probably gonna get in trouble for it later, but that's okay.
No, that's the truth, and it needs to be said. And I do want to just pop in very quickly because we've got maybe about a minute left, and what's going to end up happening is we're going to end up going to our breakout rooms. So I don't want anyone to be cut off, but we may have time for just one more comment before we have to go to the next room.
We're probably going to get cut off. So guys, thank you so much. I thank you so much for joining us. You guys can reach them on any of their platforms. I want you guys to enjoy the conference. Thank you, Carlotta. Thank you, Tira. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Alexis. Thank you, Candace. We appreciate you so much. We're getting ready to get started and go to our rooms. Again, we're going to give you all of this information to all of the ladies here on the panel. Have a great session, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, and you're welcome.